You know that moment when your entire world collapses in the span of about 30 seconds? When everything you've worked for, everything you've sacrificed for, everything you've believed in just evaporates into thin air? When the ground beneath your feet disappears, and you're left falling into a void with no idea how to catch yourself. That was me at 3:47 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, standing in my own living room, holding a piece of paper that would destroy everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and the man I had loved for 16 years. My name is Alicia. I am 43 years old. I have been married to my husband Derek for 16 years. We have 2 children together, a daughter named Maya who is 14, and a son named Ethan who is 11. We have a beautiful home in an exclusive neighborhood, the kind with manicured lawns and neighbors who wave when they drive by. We have a golden retriever named Bailey who thinks he's a lapdog. We have a summer home in the Hamptons and a winter ski trip to Aspen every year. We are that family, the one with the perfect lawn, the perfect holidays, the perfect social media posts that make everyone else feel inadequate. I am an architect. I design buildings that people live and work in. I create spaces where families grow and memories are made. I have always believed in building things that last, things that are solid and true. I believed my marriage was one of those things, solid, true, built to last. Derek is a surgeon, a successful one, the kind of man who commands respect when he walks into a room. He is tall, handsome, and has a smile that could charm anyone. He is also ambitious, driven, and has a way of making you feel like you are the most important person in the world when he is talking to you. He is the kind of man other women wish their husbands were like. He is the kind of father every child deserves. I met him when I was 27, fresh out of architecture school and working my first real job at a prestigious firm. He was 33, already on his way to the top. He swept me off my feet from the very first moment. He was everything I had ever wanted in a man. He was charming, confident, intelligent, and he made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. It was a fairy tale proposal, the kind you see in movies. He took me to a beautiful restaurant overlooking the city, got down on one knee, and told me he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. He had even arranged for the restaurant to play our song in the background. I said yes, of course. I was madly in love with him. I could not imagine my life without him. He was my everything. Our wedding was beautiful, a lavish affair with hundreds of guests, a 5-tier cake, and a live band. I wore a Vera Wang dress that cost more than my first car, and I felt like a princess. I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, and when I saw Derek waiting for me at the altar, I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. I thought I had it all. I thought I was living the dream. But dreams have a way of turning into nightmares. It started with a nagging feeling I couldn't shake. A whisper in the back of my mind that something wasn't right. Derek had become distant over the past year, working late more often, taking business trips that seemed to multiply, guarding his phone like it contained nuclear codes. When I asked him about it, he would smile that charming smile and tell me I was being paranoid. You know how demanding the hospital is. He'd say, "You know I'm doing this for us?" And I believed him, because I wanted to, because the alternative was too painful to consider. That piece of paper in my hand was a letter. It had arrived in a plain envelope with no return address, mixed in with the usual bills and catalogs. At first, I almost threw it away, thinking it was junk mail, but something made me open it. Something made me read those words that would change everything. A letter from a woman I had never met. A letter that revealed a secret Derek had been hiding from me for 15 years. A secret that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my marriage. The letter was from a woman named Vanessa, and it began with words that would haunt me forever. "Dear Derek, I know you will never read this. I know you have moved on, but I need to write this. I need to tell you what you did to me. You took everything from me. You took my youth, my trust, my future, You promised me forever, and then you walked away. You married her. You built a life with her. You forgot about me. But I never forgot about you, and I want you to know that I will never forgive you. Vanessa. I stood there, frozen, staring at the letter. My hands were shaking so violently the paper rattled. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Bailey patted over and nudged my leg with his wet nose. Sensing something was wrong, I couldn't even pet him. My mind was racing, trying to process what I was reading. Who was Vanessa? What had Derek done to her? Why had she written this letter now, after all these years? I read the letter again, and again, and again. Each time the words cut deeper. You took everything from me. You promised me forever. You married her. You built a life with her. This wasn't just some casual affair. This was something deeper. Something that had happened before me. Before our marriage. Before our life together. But the letter had been sent now. To my house. To me. Vanessa wanted me to know. She had waited 15 years to make sure I found out the truth about the man I had married. I sat down on the couch, the letter still clutched in my hand. My knuckles white, I felt like I was going to be sick. The room seemed to tilt and sway. My beautiful living room, with its carefully chosen furniture and family photos on the mantel, suddenly felt like a stage set for a play I was no longer performing in. My whole world was crumbling around me. Everything I thought I knew about my husband was a lie. I started to think back, to remember, to piece together the puzzle. When I met Derek, he was already successful, already established, already on his way to the top. He was charming, confident, and he made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. But I had always wondered, in quiet moments, why a man like him was still single. Why he had never married. Why he had never settled down. He was 33, handsome. A surgeon women practically threw themselves at him. It didn't quite add up, but I had pushed those thoughts aside, telling myself I was just being insecure. He had told me he had been too focused on his career, that he had never met the right woman, that he was waiting for someone special. I had believed him. I had felt special. I had felt chosen. I had felt like the heroine in a romance novel, the one who finally captured the heart of the untamable bachelor. But now I was starting to wonder. Who was Vanessa? What had Derek done to her? Why had she written this letter? And why did she sound so utterly destroyed? I searched through the rest of Derek's things. His desk in the study, his drawers in the bedroom, the back of his closet where he kept old boxes he thought I never looked at. My hands were trembling, and I felt like a thief in my own home. I found more letters, dozens of them, all from Vanessa, all written over the years, but never sent or perhaps copies of letters she had finally decided to deliver. Some were desperate, some were angry, some were so saturated with sadness that the ink seemed to bleed with tears. All were heartbreaking. I know you are happy now. I know you have moved on. But I will never forget what you did to me. I will never forgive you. I will never stop loving you. And I will never stop hating you. The contradiction in those words hit me like a physical blow. She still loved him, after everything. She still loved the man who had destroyed her. You promised me you would leave her. You promised me you would start a new life with me. You lied. You were never going to leave her. You were never going to choose me. I was just a distraction, a game, and I was stupid enough to believe you. Wait. This letter was dated 3 years after Derek and I were married. 3 years. He had been with Vanessa while he was with me. He had promised to leave me for her. This wasn't just a past relationship. This was an ongoing betrayal that had stretched into our marriage. I heard you got married. I heard you have children. I hope you are happy. I hope you are living the life you always wanted. I hope you never have to feel the pain you caused me. I hope one day someone does to you what you did to me. The bitterness in those words was a living thing, coiled and venomous. The letters went on and on. They painted a picture of a woman who had been deeply hurt, A woman who had been betrayed not once, but over and over again. A woman who had been used, discarded, and then strung along with false promises while Derek built a perfect life with someone else, with me. And they also painted a picture of my husband, a man who had lied, a man who had cheated, a man who had destroyed someone's life without a second thought, a man who had looked me in the eyes every single day for 16 years and never once let the truth slip through his perfect smile. I felt like I had been living with a stranger, a man I thought I knew but didn't really know at all. The Derek I had married, the kind, devoted, loving husband, was a fiction, a character he had played so convincingly that even I, his wife, had been completely fooled. I didn't confront Derek right away. I needed time to process. I needed to figure out what to do. I needed to understand the full scope of what had happened. For 3 days I moved through my life like a ghost. I smiled at my children, packed their lunches, asked them about school, all while a storm raged inside me. Maya asked me once why I looked so sad, and I told her I just had a headache. The lie tasted like ash in my mouth. I started doing some digging. I searched for Vanessa online. It took me hours of scrolling through search results, cross-referencing names and locations, but I found her. She lived in a small town about 2 hours away. She was a nurse in a pediatric clinic. She was single, she had no children. Her social media profile was sparse. A few pictures of sunsets, a quote about healing. Nothing that revealed the depth of her pain. She looked tired. There were shadows under her eyes that no amount of makeup could hide. I also found something else. Something that made my blood run cold. Buried in old archived engagement announcements in a local newspaper's online database, I found a photograph of Vanessa and Derek smiling, arms around each other. The caption read, "Vanessa Collins and Dr. Derek Hayes announced their engagement." The date was 2 months before I met him. 2 months. He had been engaged to another woman when he swept me off my feet. He had taken off one ring and slipped another onto my finger without ever mentioning the first. Vanessa had been Derek's fiancée. Not just a girlfriend, but his fiancée. They had been together for 5 years. He had promised to marry her. He had promised to start a life with her. And then he had left her. He had met me. He had chosen me. Or rather, he had chosen the life I represented, the prestige of marrying an architect from a good family, the social standing, the fresh start without the complications of a long history. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I had been the other woman, the one he had chosen over her, the one he had built a life with, the one he had married. But I hadn't known. I hadn't known about Vanessa. I hadn't known about his past. I had been completely in the dark. And Vanessa had been left to pick up the shattered pieces of her life, while I walked down the aisle in my Vera Wang gown, blissfully ignorant of the wreckage in my wake. I started to wonder what else he was hiding, what other secrets he was keeping, what other lies he had told. Once you start pulling at a thread, the whole fabric starts to unravel. I started going through his financial records, his emails, his phone records. I became a detective in my own home, staying up late into the night while Derek slept, combing through spreadsheets and bank statements. I looked for anything that would give me a clearer picture of who he really was, and I found it. Derek had been hiding more than just a past relationship. He had been hiding money, large sums transferred into accounts I had never seen. He had been hiding investments in properties I knew nothing about. A condo downtown, a beach house in a neighboring state. He had been building a secret life, a financial fortress that would protect him if our marriage ever fell apart. He had planned for this. He had always planned for an escape route, a parachute he could deploy while I plummeted to the ground. I also found evidence of other women. Not just Vanessa. There were receipts from hotels, charges at jewelry stores for items I had never received, emails with subject lines that made my stomach churn. Derek had been unfaithful for our entire marriage. Vanessa was just the tip of the iceberg. The man I had devoted my life to had been living a double life, and I had been too trusting, too in love to see it. I confronted him that night. I sat him down at the kitchen table, The letters spread out between us like a prosecutor's exhibits and told him everything I knew. "I know about Vanessa," I said, my voice cold and steady, though inside I was a hurricane. "I know about the letters. I know about the engagement. I know about the money. I know about the secret investments. I know about the other women. I know everything." His face went white. For a split second, I saw panic flash in his eyes, the look of a man who had just realized his carefully constructed facade was crumbling. Then he masked it, slipping back into the charming, confident persona I knew so well. "What are you talking about? I don't know what you're saying." "I don't know who Vanessa is. Don't lie to me," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. I slammed my hand on the table, and the letters jumped. "I have the letters. I have the bank records. I have the hotel receipts. I have everything. Don't you dare stand there and lie to my face after 16 years. He stared at me, and I watched the mask fall completely. His shoulders slumped, his eyes dropped. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. Please let me explain. It's not what you think." "Explain what? Explain how you lied to me for 16 years? Explain how you built a secret life behind my back? Explain how you destroyed another woman's life, a woman who loved you, who trusted you, who was supposed to be your wife, and then just walked away like she meant nothing. I never meant to hurt you. I never meant to hurt anyone. I was young. I was stupid. I made mistakes." His voice cracked, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. "Almost? Mistakes?" I repeated, the word bitter on my tongue. "You called off an engagement 2 months before you met me and never mentioned it. You carried on relationships with other women while we were married. You hid assets and built a secret financial empire in case I ever found out. That's not a mistake, Derek. That's a pattern. That's a lifestyle. That's who you are. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He reached for my hand, and I pulled it away as if his touch were poison. Sorry is not enough. Sorry does not fix 16 years of lies. Sorry does not bring back the years Vanessa lost. Sorry does not make any of this right. I walked away. I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I looked back, I might have broken down completely. And I needed to stay strong. I needed to be sharp. I needed to fight. I needed to know more. I hired a private investigator, a meticulous woman named Gloria, who had been recommended by a colleague. I gave her Derek's name, his information, everything I had found. I told her to dig deep. I told her to find everything, no matter how ugly. It took 3 weeks, but she came back with a report that made my blood run cold all over again. Derek had been living a double life for decades. Not just with Vanessa, but with multiple women over the years. He had been cheating on me since before our first anniversary. He had been using money from our joint accounts to fund his affairs' expensive dinners, hotel rooms, gifts. He had been hiding assets, hiding investments, hiding properties, all designed to keep me in the dark. He was a master manipulator, a man who had compartmentalized his life so effectively that even his own wife had no idea who he really was. But that wasn't all. Gloria found medical records, court documents, a lawsuit that had been settled out of court. Vanessa had been pregnant. She had been carrying Derek's child when he left her. The stress of the abandonment, the heartbreak, the sheer trauma of losing the man she loved while carrying his baby, had caused a miscarriage. She had lost the baby, and Derek had known. He had known, and he had walked away anyway. He had left her bleeding and broken, and he had never looked back. I sat in Gloria's office, the report spread out on the desk, and I wept. Not for Derek, not for my marriage, for Vanessa, for the baby that never got to be born, for the years of suffering that a woman I had never met had endured because of the man I had married. I wept until there were no tears left, and then I made a decision. I was devastated. I was angry. I was humiliated. I was destroyed. But I was also determined. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I wasn't going to let him destroy my life and walk away unscathed. I wasn't going to be another Vanessa, left to pick up the pieces while he moved on to his next victim. I was going to fight back. I started planning my revenge. I gathered all the evidence I had. The letters, the financial records, the property records, the proof of his affairs, Gloria's report, everything organized into neat, damning folders that left no room for doubt or denial. I went to a lawyer, a divorce lawyer. Eleanor Vance was her name, and she was a shark in designer heels, the kind of lawyer who would tear Derek apart in court and then send him a bill for the privilege. She had a reputation for representing wronged spouses and winning. I told her everything. She listened, her face grim, her pen tapping rhythmically against her notepad. When I finished, she set the pen down and looked me straight in the eye. "Mrs. Davis," she said, "you have a very strong case. Your husband has committed fraud, adultery, and financial abuse. He has been hiding assets and dissipating marital funds on extramarital affairs. He concealed a prior engagement and a child he fathered who was miscarried, which, while not legally actionable in itself, speaks to his character. I can help you. I can make sure he pays for what he's done." "Good," I said, my voice steady. "That's what I want. I want him to pay. I want him to lose everything he built on a foundation of lies. I want him to know what it feels like to have his world collapse." The divorce was brutal. Derek tried to fight it. He hired his own lawyer, a slick attorney in an expensive suit who tried to spin the story, claiming I was bitter and jealous, that I was making everything up to extort money. They tried to paint me as unstable, as a woman scorned, but I had the evidence. I had the proof. And Eleanor was relentless. She deposed Derek for 8 hours, and by the end he was stammering and contradicting himself. She subpoenaed his financial records and laid out the trail of hidden assets for the judge to see. She called witnesses, including one of the women he had been seeing, who broke down on the stand and admitted she had no idea he was married. In the end, I got everything: the house, the summer home, the investments, the properties. I got primary custody of Maya and Ethan. I got alimony. I got it all. And Derek was left with nothing. His reputation was destroyed. His career at the hospital was ruined. The board of directors had no interest in employing a surgeon whose personal life was a moral catastrophe. His life was over. The man who had spent decades building a fortress of lies found himself standing in the rubble, completely alone. He tried to come back to me. He showed up at the house one night, unshaven, eyes red, looking like he hadn't slept in days. He begged, he pleaded, he promised to change, to go to therapy, to become the man I deserved. He said he had realized what he had lost, that I was the love of his life. The words were the same ones he had probably said to Vanessa years ago. I looked at him, this hollowed-out shell of the man I had married, and I felt nothing but a distant, clinical pity. "You made your choice," I said, closing the door. "Now you have to live with it." I also reached out to Vanessa. It took me weeks to work up the courage. "What do you say to the woman whose life your husband destroyed?" "Hello, I'm the woman he left you for. The woman he married. The woman who got the life you were supposed to have. But I had to do it. I owed her that much." I sent her a letter, an old-fashioned, handwritten letter on cream-colored stationery. I told her I was sorry. I told her I didn't know about her until recently. I told her she deserved better than what Derek had done to her. I told her that if she ever wanted to talk, I would listen. She was hesitant at first. Her reply, when it came a month later, was guarded and brief. She didn't trust me. Why would she? I was the woman who had married the man who destroyed her, but I was patient. I wrote to her again, and then again. Slowly, she opened up. We met for coffee in a quiet cafe halfway between our towns. She was petite, with kind eyes that had seen too much pain. Over the course of several hours, she told me her story. She told me about falling in love with Derek, About the engagement, about the plans they had made. She told me about the day he left, how he had simply said he couldn't do this anymore. How he had walked out the door and never come back. She told me about discovering she was pregnant a week later, and about losing the baby 2 months after that, alone in a hospital room with no one to hold her hand. She told me about the years of grief, the therapy, the slow, agonizing process of putting herself back together, and I listened. I listened for hours. I listened for days. I listened for weeks. I didn't defend Derek. I didn't make excuses. I just listened and I let her pain have a witness. Something unexpected happened. We became friends, not immediately, not easily, but over time. We became allies. We became sisters. Two women who had been pitted against each other by a man's deception, now united by a shared refusal to let him define our lives any longer. It's been 3 years since everything happened. I've moved on. I've rebuilt my life. I've found happiness again, not the fairy tale kind I believed in before, but a real, grounded, hard-won happiness that means more because I know what it cost. My children are thriving. They are happy. They are healthy. They are loved. They have adjusted to the new reality with a resilience that amazes me. Maya, now 17, is applying to colleges and wants to study law. I want to help people like you. Mom, she said, and I cried. Ethan, 14, is on the soccer team and still gives me hugs in public, which I treasure. They still see their father occasionally, supervised, but they know the truth, age-appropriate versions of it, but the truth nonetheless. They know what he did. They know who he really is. I've started my own interior design firm, combining my architectural training with a passion for creating beautiful, healing spaces. It's small, but it's growing. I'm doing work I love. I'm building a life that is mine. A life that is honest and true. A life that no one can take away from me. Vanessa is doing well too. She's found a new job at a children's hospital, where she pours her love into tiny patients who need her gentle care. She's found a new purpose, a new sense of worth. She's in a healthy relationship with a man named Thomas, a teacher who treats her with the respect and kindness she always deserved. They're engaged now, and when she showed me the ring, a simple, elegant band that suits her perfectly, I hugged her, and we both cried. She's happy. She's healed. The shadows under her eyes have faded, replaced by a light that Derek never got to extinguish. I'm grateful for all of it, the good and the bad, the joy and the pain, the love and the betrayal, because it all led me here, to this moment, to this life, to this peace, to a friendship I never expected, to a strength I never knew I had, to a future that is entirely my own. And if you're reading this, and you're standing in your own living room, holding a piece of paper that just destroyed your world, know that you will survive. You will rebuild. You will find joy again. It won't be easy. It will be the hardest thing you've ever done. But on the other side of that pain is a version of yourself you haven't met yet. And she is incredible. Loved this story? Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the bell icon so you never miss a video. I upload brand new stories every single day. Gripping, emotional, and packed with twists that'll keep you guessing until the very end. Don't forget to like this video if it gave you all the feels. Comment below. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you handle it? I read every single comment. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the best lessons come from other people's experiences. Got a story idea? Drop it in the comments. Your suggestion might just become the next video on this channel. Subscribe now and join our growing family of story lovers. New videos drop daily at 7 a.m. EST. Perfect to watch with your morning coffee. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Until next time, stay strong, stay brave, and never let anyone make you feel like you're not enough. Because you are. You always have been, And you always will be.